Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. It's great to see so many of you so far. We'll give folks another minute or two before we officially jump in. I have been wondering about that with Zoom. I've been playing it from here.
Oh, you have your own.
I'll pull up what I had been playing.
Is this your Spotify list that we're going to hear now?
This is Il Postino.
Nice.
Because if we can't travel to Italy, we can at least feel as if we're on a bicycle roaming through Rome.
We meet virtually, we travel virtually now.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm sure Zoom is working on that. It would not be very difficult. All right. Well, welcome, everyone. Starting things on a bit of a light note. It's great to have so many folks joining and look forward to having a few more trickle in. We have an insights-packed webinar. You may have noticed we didn't call this one an insights exchange. From our perspective, our insights exchanges are really where we're looking to each of you, much more forum-based, interactive, and participatory. We still really welcome your input and questions, but we are here more in a webinar providing information to you, resources and invitations to engage in MCURC. So that's why we've used the term webinar. But this one is all about getting the most out of the MCURC, the Menus of Change University Research Collaborative. I've realized in the past, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Sophie Egan. I'm the co-director of the Menus of Change University Research Collaborative. I have Eric Montel with us, fellow co-director.
Hello, everyone. Good to see you all. Thanks for joining us today.
Eric wins the coolest background award pretty much every time you ever have a Zoom call with him. Very excited also that we have Shannon Munns, our community manager, who will be co-presenting, Ghislaine Chalamel, our research program manager, who will be helping present, as well as Shara Oram, the Culinary Institute of America's Director of Corporate Relations. So we will jump right in. First and foremost, you may have noticed this beautiful new artwork. Thanks to the team at the CIA and phenomenal designer, Jason Wright, we have created now a new template deck for presenting the work of the Menus of Change University Research Collaborative. This is on the member portal. This is available to you to use in sharing your work with in the collaborative, and it will be part of a forthcoming website refresh more broadly. So stay tuned for that, but really excited about the beautiful artwork here, and really, I think, ensuring that our vision of really being student-centric is represented in the work, in addition to the beautiful displays of healthy, sustainable, delicious food. So that is kind of the big news item there from a resource standpoint, but we have a number of other exciting new developments that we're excited to share with you today. The agenda for today is kind of two main parts. First is resource sharing, some that are new, some that maybe you weren't aware of, but that we want to make sure you're able to access and find as much as possible. And then we'll do some Q&A around that, make sure everything is clear. And then the second part of the conversation, the presentation, will really be around the many platforms we have in place for you around community building. And then we'd love to invite you for a discussion with any time remaining. In terms of why now for this webinar in particular, focused on resource sharing and community building. We've heard from you throughout some insights exchanges, from emails, from other calls with our Leadership Council, Advisory Council, as well as in our recent needs assessment, that you're all navigating a host of new challenges, possibly with even, new resource constraints at the same time that you're asked to do ever more. And so we know that the MCURC can be not only a great place to learn, and community building for us is not only about those relationships, but really the peer learning. And we know that that is the case for each of you too, but also to minimize the labor that's involved in producing health, and communicating and marketing and educating in your programs around MOC principles, that labor can be minimized by leveraging resources that are already created in MCURC that are available to all of you. And, you know, especially if you perhaps don't have marketing departments, some of those materials can be very handy. And just finding solutions to challenges that you're working on can, if you can get to those solutions sooner rather than later, that can really be a great way to save amid these new times of constraint, and especially as you're just juggling a lot. So that's really kind of the impetus for this conversation. And then in addition, we just know over time that we have produced a lot of materials, but we're not always making them as easy to find as we could. So we certainly aim to do more around that. Anything, Eric, to add before we get into some of the specifics?
No, I think you've done a great job of giving an overview. And as always, we say that we're a member-driven organization, and we appreciate all of the resources that we're sharing today are from your hard work. And so it's our role to help highlight those and figure out better ways to put those in front of you and remind you of all of the great work that's happened over the last several years within the MCURC. And that's part of our purpose today. So thank you.
Yes, Eric, that's a great point. Thank you. And I think that really is a critical reminder, you know, really everything that is offered in MCURC is by you, for you. So we are merely the central organizers, collectors, and perhaps, you know, codifiers or archivists of this work, but really it emanates from all of your leadership and your work. So I'm going to let Shannon Muntz, who many of you have been in touch with over the years, who produced a great material that really summarizes a lot of our engagement opportunities. So I'll let her walk you through some of these, and then we'll dive in into some other specifics.
Great, thanks, Sophie. Hi, everyone. I'm Shannon Muntz. So to start us off, I just wanted to go over some of the ways that you can begin engaging with the collaborative. So the next two slides, I'll walk you through some of them. These will all be in a PDF document that I'll be sending out in a follow-up email afterwards, so don't worry about writing down all of these URLs. But first, the first resource we have here is read the Menus of Change annual report on the future of food. So the MCURC is a complementary initiative to Menus of Change, and the annual report is a great resource to help you begin to understand the mission of the MCURC. So this report is done annually, and it's developed in collaboration with leading scientists and business experts from the two Menus of Change advisory councils. The 2019 report includes a dashboard that shows the industry's progress on issues at the intersection of public health and nutrition, environmental sustainability, and business. And it also includes analysis of those issues and various case studies. So another way to engage is to attend the annual Menus of Change Leadership Summit. This year, it's going to be a virtual series that will run from July 22nd through August 26th. Registration is going to be complimentary to food service operators, and we'll be sending out more information on that soon. But in the meantime, save those dates and then be on the lookout for more information on that from us. Another great way to engage with MCURC is to join our LinkedIn community. So we'll be discussing the LinkedIn community later on in the call, so I won't go into details on that right now. Next slide, Sophie. And then implement the Menus of Change principles into your menus. So a good starting point to help you with this is to visit the resources page on the MCURC website. On this page, you'll find toolkits, training materials, menu strategies, and a variety of other resources to help you continue your momentum to move people towards healthier and more sustainable food choices. So Sophie's going to walk through all of these resources now, and just remember they're all on the resource page there for you.
Yeah, thank you. And you know, we know that operationalizing MOC principles is not something you just do overnight. This body of work on our resources page reflects years and years now, going back to when we started in 2014, of phenomenal output from a variety of our professional committees, executive chefs, dining directors, nutrition and sustainability community program leaders, as well as education working group and research working group. So this is a summary of all of the items that are on there. I'm actually just going to walk you through each one, but this slide, we're going to share this deck with you all afterward. This slide is so that when you don't hear me narrating, you have a nice summary of it. So actually, just to look at the site itself. So if you go ahead and look at the resources page. So if you are on moccollaborative.org and you go to the resources page, this is where these all live. So they're in descending order chronologically, or reverse chronological order. So most recently we had our Edgy Veggies Toolkit, and this came out of our DISH study that is an operator-focused, very interactive toolkit developed in partnership with Stanford. I always forget the acronym of SPARC, Social Psychological Answers to Real World Questions, I believe. SPARC is our fantastic research partner on that project, so they developed this interactive toolkit. There's also, though, the DISH study executive summary, and there's a PDF version here that you can download right here for the toolkit as well. And so there's 3 different ways that you can really work with your teams to understand how to incorporate taste-focused labeling to encourage healthier eating. So these 3 in and of themselves are a really incredible way to increase the appeal of healthy, sustainable foods, in particular healthy foods, which often, as we know, happen to also be sustainable through your menu language. And it's based on this rigorous study that we did, this multi-site study published in the fall, and it was the largest study ever measuring food choices in university dining that we're aware of. So those 3 resources are there. They're also on the research page. And then continuing down the page here, we have a chef-driven recipe compilation, a really beautiful illustration of the creativity around the Menus of Change principle of globally inspired plant-forward. And this compilation was published in 2018, and it's incredible in the rigor of making the case for it, what is plant forward, but it also is really exceptional in that it features recipes, if I can get down to the bottom here, from all of our member institutions. It was a really amazing display of collaboration across our executive chefs. It's just extraordinary. And there's actually links here to each and every recipe. So one kind of signature recipe submitted by each member institution. So encourage you to check that out. We heard also in the needs assessment too, that especially with new constraints, finding those easy, tested, scaled recipes can be a great, particularly valuable resource at this time. Moving down to food waste. So we know food waste is of much concern. It's going to be a continued focus area for our research pipeline. And a resource was developed by our sustainable food program managers that kind of compiled some applicable food waste research. This is a working document. I'm neglecting to show it to you because of the, but in any case, it's a working document that is continuously updated by our sustainability managers. And so kind of just as a little bit of a summary thus far, but definitely on our research page, there's much more, or our research pipeline, excuse me, there's much more coming to address food waste. The next item is what we call a gap analysis, or a self-assessment tool. So this is a really interesting example of really more of a tool. So what you can do here, it's very straightforward, but this actually grew out of a student, before we had fellows, this was a student internship actually at UC Santa Barbara that sparked this idea, and then the education working group really took this idea and ran with it. And what it is it's just a principle by principle tool for you and your department to say, how are we doing? What's our current status? What are our next steps? And what's our timeline for getting there? Who are we assigning? How are we delegating? And so, we know 24 principles, that's a lot, but it's a way to just continuously check in with yourself and your program. How is it aligning with other strategic priorities that you may have as a university, as a program, as a department? And it goes through every principle and can be a great tool for your team to do as a team building exercise as well, and really kind of reflecting on strengths, opportunities, and then action steps for addressing, for finding ways to do ever more. Next up, we have the protein flip strategies for college and university food service. This is really robust, also culinary driven, chef driven output that came from the Executive Chefs Committee. So many of you are familiar with the protein flip that the Culinary Institute of America and Harvard Chan School for Menus of Change produced. That's on the Menus of Change website, menusofchange.org. But what does the protein flip look like in college and university food service specifically? So this again is an inspirational compilation making the case for the protein flip, why, how, and then has a lot of really creative ideas for not only overcoming kind of perception barriers, but innovative recipe ideas and beyond. So check that out as well. And then moving to another example of a tool. So we consider a tool kind of something that you can apply more interactively, more directly into your work versus purely gain inspiration. And the Education Working Group developed something called the MOC Principles Implementation Schedule. This grew out of the recognition, and we imagine this continues to be something that is on your minds, that from a marketing perspective, again, there's a variety of bandwidth and resources on your teams for marketing support. But how do you kind of integrate what you're doing around MOC principles into holidays, National Pecan Pie Day, or other kind of moments in time, timely different elements or kind of occasions that different clubs and groups may be focused on. So this material is really nice way to, so this first page shows you basically how to use this schedule. And what it does is it sort of says, okay, there's 24 principles. Here's some ideas for how you might go month by month, and some ideas for tying into national, regional, or local happenings. Also keeping in mind that one of the principles is around seasonality. And so how do you ensure that you are really celebrating the great diversity of foods that are healthy and sustainable when they're most in season, at peak ripeness, and how that can plug into your local and regional sourcing efforts as well. So again, a really simple and straightforward, but very valuable tool, beautifully designed by the Education Working Group and the Northeastern Marketing Department, thanks to Maureen Timmons. So then I see her smiling. So then lastly, this is a very interesting resource called Menus of Change in Action. So this was actually the first material produced by the MCURC Executive Chefs Committee many years ago, which said, okay, there's 24 principles, but which ones are sort of the easiest to implement and which ones are harder? What are unique challenges that chefs and operators are facing with some, and where are they really just having tremendous traction with others? So this material it's essentially a compilation of the survey results. And what would be really interesting, I think, obviously our executive chefs have their hands full and have been inspired to do some other projects. This was considered sort of a baseline, I believe it was in 2015. And so question, of course, or 2016, excuse me. So the question, of course, would be over time, how is this changing and amid new opportunities and new challenges? But it is an extraordinarily rich set of responses that goes principle by principle, ideas for sort of how they're implementing, how they're operationalizing that given principle, what the biggest challenges, what the biggest obstacles, and so forth. So those are kind of our published resources. The last set I want to point out is this Resources for Dining Hall Collaboration. This was produced by our academics committee and was essentially, it's a series of case studies. So each of these four, we'll click on Lebanon Valley College, because Dr. Bob Belgenti really led this work, of course, with Peggy Paulo Castro, with the academics committee, but it's a series of case studies, and it was put together to address the question of, how do I even begin to engage a dining hall if I'm a researcher? How do I even begin to engage them in the prospect of using living laboratories, or using a campus dining hall as living laboratory? Or if I'm a dining hall, how do I even begin to engage a faculty member on my campus to do some kind of research? And so what it did was essentially show through each of these case studies kind of which principles were the invitations to collaborate, what were some strategies for collaboration, and then what happened, what were the outcomes, what were the challenges, and then list some contact information if you want to learn more about that project. So those are a good number of readings for each of you to dig into. Hopefully, as you see, there's sort of campus-wide efforts, there's culinary-driven, there are research-specific, education-specific, and kind of more marketing-oriented. And when we say marketing, it's really more campus engagement, right? How are you talking about what you're doing, the storytelling of what you're doing with your campus communities. And now, actually, just to look at the rest of our materials, we have that's really the body on the member on our public facing page, but we also have a wide variety of resources for sponsors specifically on our sponsor portal, and Shara will speak about those in a moment. And then we have a wide variety of resources for our members on the member portal, and I'll let Shannon speak about those now.
Thanks, Sophie. So yeah, as Sophie said, we have a wide variety of resources, information available on our member portal. Just quickly, I want to let you all know how to get to there. So you can get there from our home page. If you click on members at the top, you'll see a drop-down page and you'll see the member portal. So click there. You'll just need to enter your email address and a password that I will be sending out in the follow-up email. Next slide, Sophie. So once you enter your information, you will be taken to the member portal page. So this page includes a number of resources to help you. One that I get asked about a lot is the communications toolkit. So that toolkit includes a variety of resources, including these proud member buttons that you see here on the slide that can be used on your website, your email signatures, things like that. We also have in this communications toolkit infographics for all of the MOC principles that you can use in marketing materials. We have this beautiful PowerPoint template you'll find in there. You'll find MCURC logos, the logo graphics that you can use, as well as usage guidelines for all of our materials and guidelines for media and press, that type of stuff. The portal also includes an FAQ document that answers a lot of the most common questions that we get. It includes links to our YouTube channel. It includes folders for all of our committees and working groups so you can stay up to date on the work that they're doing. You'll also find directories with contact information for all of our members and sponsors. And then you'll also find information from all of our past annual meetings, including all of the speaker presentations, meeting notes, recipes for all of the delicious dishes that were served at these meetings, photos and videos from the meetings, going back to our very first meeting in 2015. So there are, again, a variety of resources there. So I encourage you to go familiarize yourself with everything that's on there.
Great. And similarly, on the sponsor side.
Great, thanks so much. On our sponsor portal, we are migrating to a new website soon. So we will have an actual portal sponsor gateway on the new website. However, in the time being, we do have a shared Google Drive where we do have the proud sponsor buttons, that could be printed, all the links to the webinar recordings, similarly the dish study resources, contacts, how to sign up for the LinkedIn group if you or someone on your team is not currently engaged, and then the sponsored research guidelines. I am also happy to continue to update these resources if there are items that our sponsors are looking for to make sure that everything is in one central location to find easily. And if anyone on your team doesn't have access yet to the Google Drive, please let me know and I'm happy to share access with them.
Thanks, Sharon, Shannon. Yeah, so really, the purpose of sharing all of these is, you see on a regular basis, we're contacting you with emails and newsletters and the like, but just more of a reminder of all the stuff that is out there and that that has been produced, as mentioned, by you and for you. And really our goal with this, with today's conversation, is just to make those as easy to access and as valuable for you to implement as possible. So Shannon, just briefly on the newsletter, we'll also mention some changes there.
Yeah, thanks, Sophie. So we also send out a monthly newsletter that is just always packed full of new insights, updates, resources that we think you'll find useful. This is a screenshot of our February newsletter, just so you can kind of get a look for it. We recently revamped it, and we hope that you find it useful. Some of the things that you can typically find in our newsletter, we include updates from our committees and working groups. We include insights from our sponsors. We usually spotlight several of our member schools and the work that they're doing to promote healthy and sustainable food choices to their communities. We include links to resources that we think would be of value to you. And then also one of the fairly new features that we're doing in the newsletter is something we're really excited about. That is our Executive Chefs Committee Recipe Spotlight. So every month we feature a different recipe that comes from one of our talented MCURC chefs. So we know the Chefs Committee is really excited to put this together for you. So we hope you find that very useful. So again, we encourage you to read this newsletter and take advantage of all that we're compiling for you. And just on another note, we're always looking for great information to share. We know that you all are doing a lot of wonderful work out there. So if you have anything to share about maybe awards that you've received or recognition that your program has received, any insights or milestones that you've achieved related to the MCRC mission and vision, let me know. Send me an email. We'd love to share those things in the newsletter and have all of our members give you the recognition you deserve. Thanks.
That's well said. And as Shannon mentioned, we will send a kind of a recap of all of this after this webinar as well. So you can make sure you have Shannon's information and then all of these slides as well. So we have just a couple of minutes before we transition, and I would love to hear if there are any questions about any of this. There's no problem if it's rather tactical. This is really the goal to just, as we said, make this as easy as possible for you to access. So we'd love to know what questions you have about any of what we've just shared.
Sophie, do you get any information on how many people visit the site? You know, like, are you tracking clicks to see if you're getting much headway with those?
Yes, great question. Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because MCURC being a member organization, we dedicate most of our time to all of you, to this community. But of course, we're also open source. We want to ensure that we're offering what's created in MCURC to not only CNU and higher education, but to improve the broader food service industry's ability to operationalize MOC principles and beyond, right? So we do look at that, and that has actually been a great source of information as we've now been working on the website redesign. So we've mentioned that's forthcoming, but the draft that we have so far kind of looked at which pages are the most used, most accessed. And actually, Ghislaine, you may remember better than I do. I believe it was the resources page, but it was actually a number of months back that I was looking at that most recently.
Sophie, I was going to ask one question that I see coming up in the chat, which is, how do I get on the newsletter listserv, which is a good question. And then I also saw contact information several times. So who should they send those requests to, or updated contact information to?
Yeah, Shannon, why don't you share your contact information? So Shannon Muntz is the person who can make sure you're on the newsletter listserv. She'll also be the person that you'll contact for any questions about the LinkedIn, as we get into that in a moment. And really, I think kind of in general, when you have questions about the tools and opportunities.
About community, yeah, what's happening in our community, yeah. Yep,
so Shannon is really your one-stop shop. So Muntz, S-M-U-N-Z @stanford.edu. She can share that in the chat, and that's what I mentioned too, is we'll be sure that contact information is in in the post webinar recap as well.
Yes.
But Frank, I don't know if we answered your question. Essentially, yes, the point is we do track that. It's not, crazy, but it is substantial. It's not as if the work that's being created here is only being utilized by members. Any other questions about resources, how to use them? Yeah, definitely feel free to use the chat. We certainly welcome, I think all of you know too, being a member-driven organization, we always welcome ideas, and hopefully those of you who have been involved for a bit of time have seen that we really act on your ideas, whether it's new formats for the newsletter or new offerings virtually, anything along those lines. I want to make sure that I don't miss any questions. Okay, great. So perfect timing. We're going to move now to community building. So I'm excited to have Ghislaine share with you a bit about the YouTube channel, if you aren't aware of that. And Ghislaine Chalamel, as I mentioned, is our research program manager, who also does quite a bit to help with the building of great community in MCURC.
Thank you, Sophie. Yes, so we have an MCURC YouTube channel. You can access it through our website in the member portal. On that channel, we have put all the past virtual webinars that we've been doing, and in addition to some of our members' initiatives that you can find there. And we also have put the insight exchanges that we've been doing for the past month. It's a great way to, refresh your memories. I was looking at the dish study material, and we've done, for example, a great webinar explaining you step by step how to use the toolkit. And I feel for operation and chef that are, curious of how to use these tools. They have a very detailed way of using it, and all the things that you will find on the MCURC channel is designed for this. And if you've missed one of the Insight Exchange, you can make up for that. Just a quick note, in the resource in the member portals, you have access to the share folder for the research working group, where you can find all the recording as well of our meetings. So for the ones who are part of this research working group, this is also a great way to be updated on everything we discuss there.
Yes, and so we wanted to have a place to store and offer in a clearly organized way all of our past virtual recordings. But of course, joining live is also arguably the best way to get the most out of not only the webinars and insights exchanges, because with the Insights Exchange model, we are doing breakout sessions, and those are not shown in the recording. So just as a reminder, that might be small group discussion. It also, it's harder to access the chat. So, but we know, of course, with time constraints that that's not always possible. So we encourage you to also keep an eye out for our future webinars and Insights Exchanges, in the sense that you can learn as much as possible from your peers. And we will continue to do as much as possible also on COVID-related challenges and how you're each navigating those, and how we can kind of through the network of MCURC identify best practices and ensure that you're getting easy access to things that folks are finding to be helpful in addressing some of those challenges. So the next part of our conversation is our LinkedIn community. We want to make sure that you know both why you should join the LinkedIn community and how. So, Ghislaine?
Yes, so this is a very exciting initiative that we've launched, I feel, a few months ago, the MCURC LinkedIn community. And not only you should join this community, but you should also spend a little time on there, because there is so many news that are shared by our members and our sponsors. The first reason why you should join this community is because it can expand your network significantly and create discussions on various topics that you are interested in. And especially in these times where we feel that we have so many challenges to face, it's a great place where you can safely discuss with other members. It's a closed community. It's listed, so once you've joined, you will see that you are part of this network. But all the discussions that are in the page are just for ourselves. It's not public. It can help you tap into what's happening at other universities and in the industry at large, based on what we share. So the more you share, the more you will get as well. It's a simple way to put your dining program on the MCURC map, upload a picture, write a summary that emphasizes and showcases what's occurring on your campus. It's very nice to see, for example, when we had our members hosting the annual meeting or things like that. It's always great to see pictures of everyone, especially when we miss each other so much. And you can connect with colleagues and build a network that can help you to find new ways to solve your issues and challenges, and also advance your career. We are all here for professional reasons, and it's a great way to connect more deeply with our members.
Mm-hmm. Right, and just to build on some of those thoughts, you know, we also wanted to emphasize that we've always been a virtual network, but especially now that we, you know, aren't able to gather in person at the Global Plant Forward Culinary Summit recently, or Menus of Change, the Leadership Summit, which would be this week, right? Or other conferences and places where there can be casual collisions and, you know, great food experiences together that really strengthen existing relationships and where you can spark new ones. We really encourage you to take advantage of the networking aspect of the LinkedIn community. It is definitely a place to learn and gather news and so forth, but it's also basically the directory of all of the members and sponsor representatives who are part of this. So you can read about their past experience, their educational experience, their other work experience, where are they based, their, you know, what are they posting, and so on. And so, you know, we'll do some kind of structured prompts for networking, you know, things like encouraging you to reach out to people in perhaps your surrounding region and think about regional, you know, food systems and supply chains, or reaching out to someone with your similar role, things like that. But, you know, I think this week I would just encourage you to think about, you know, kind of closing your eyes and imagining you're at, you know, humid Hyde Park gathering for Menus of Change, and like, who are you going to be bumping into at the Burger Bash, or, you know, who do you not even know that you might have bumped into, and sort of maybe just close your eyes and click on a random person in the list and reach out to them and have a conversation. So we, as I said, we'll offer some structure and support to help nurture those relationships, member to member, sponsor to sponsor, member to sponsor, and beyond. And also, excitingly, with our fellows as well, because it's really critically important that we bring our next generation of food leaders into this network, and we'll share a bit more about that. But you can expect in the future too to find folks there from students, undergrad, grad, and postdocs, and that may also relate to internship opportunities or other kinds of things. So now to the mechanics of how you do join. Shannon?
Thanks, Sophie. So yeah, now that you know all the great reasons why you should join, I just wanted to quickly walk you through how you should join. So you do need a LinkedIn account, which I know most of you probably have, but if you don't, just go to linkedin.com and click to join. The sign up is really easy and simple. Once you are a member, log in, and in the search button up at the top, just type in Menus of Change University Research Collaborative, and the group will come up. Click on the group, and then next slide, Sophie. You'll come to the group page, but you'll need to click the Request to Join button that you see there next to the arrow. So do that, and then we will accept your request within a 24-hour period, and you'll get notified via email saying you've been accepted, and then you're in, and you can start engaging with everyone on that page. Next slide, Sophie. So just we launched this, we did a soft launch several months ago, and at that time around 78 of you joined. So thank you to those of you that have joined. For the rest of you that have not yet, we encourage you to join. We really want to have this be a really vibrant and engaging community. So please join us here on LinkedIn.
Great. Yes. And as mentioned, this Shannon will be happy to help anyone having any challenges going forward, but we do look forward to seeing this grow. So a new community building opportunity that we're very excited to share is what we're calling MCURC alumni. So this idea, I have to again credit Dr. Maureen Timmons, our chair of the Education Working Group. She and others gave invaluable feedback over the past several months on some new enhanced avenues of engagement for our academic members, which I'll mention more in a moment. But one of the ideas that came out of those conversations was the recognition of all of the incredible opportunities we have to really keep members who move on part of the community. And so we're thinking of folks like, perhaps now with the economic crisis, perhaps folks who are furloughed or laid off, but even pre-crisis, perhaps folks who were moving cities, as I am, and just looking for ways to, when we can in real life, have just their new kind of colleagues and peers on the ground. Maybe they can go visit their dining programs, learn from one another. We've heard in the past about kind of even notions of like research hubs and the power of in-person, face-to-face collaboration. So finding folks in your area to deepen relationships with. Perhaps you're transitioning jobs, out of choice, and maybe going to a campus dining program or somewhere else that's maybe no longer eligible to be a member institution, but you individually can stay involved because you continue to care about menus of change principles and so forth, and demonstrate those in your work. And then also students. So we have our student fellows. This is really basically a layer, the mentoring network, or excuse me, the alumni is also somewhere where our student fellows who move on, if they graduate, they can stay involved even after they're no longer in the fellows program. So there's quite a few other folks. We can also think about members who perhaps retire and have so much experience and knowledge and wisdom to offer and may want to stay involved. So in addition to being now part of the MCURC LinkedIn community, our alumni will also have the opportunity to stay on the email list to receive the newsletter and stay plugged in that way. So just wanted to share this with you. And as a little bit more background, and I should mention, we'll be reaching out. Each of those will be really individualized. So we'll reach out to folks individually on the alumni side of things. And I should know that is not applicable to the sponsor side of the community. But going back to kind of this bigger picture, a couple of other updates we wanted to share is really about our academic members. And so based on a lot of feedback from academic members and the great chairs and co-chairs who've served as the leadership of that academics committee over the years, we now have arrived at 4 parallel pathways for enhanced engagement in the collaborative. Most of this is just as context. Academic members have already been informed of this, but one is we'll really be excited to engage them on more project-based collaborations, deepening their ability to focus their time and energy on education working group and research working group projects on specific tasks and on a specific kind of timeline. Being part of this new student mentoring network that we'll share more about in a moment, and really gathering their skills. Ghislaine and I are excited to have a more data-driven understanding of the what we know is really tremendous array of data analysis skills, academic writing skills and other types of experience research wise as well as teaching wise. And then they will transition to no longer really function as a professional committee in the sense of having monthly meetings and so forth, but participation on occasional calls to provide input that maybe MCURC has at a higher level, kind of as needed on a bespoke basis. So we kind of think this is where resource sharing meets community building, are these different structures of engagement going forward. So Ghislaine is going to tell you all about the mentoring network and why we're really excited to engage all of you and our students in this new offering.
Thank you, Sophie. Yeah, the idea of the mentoring network came from the observation that students are central to everything that we do. They are instrumental in our research from the first day. I've always heard Christopher Gardner, and then Jean-Xavier, and then now Peggy saying students are the ones who drive the research, right? I'm so happy, by the way, to see Charlie and Benji on the call. Hello, guys. It's so great to have you. So we have our MCURC fellows. We have students like Brad Turnwald, who was the force behind the dish study. Peggy's students are driving the research around the menus of change principle that we are doing in the dining hall. And now we are seeing another layer of collaboration that is also based on the amazing skills and time and energy that students are willing to share with us, is the development of the manuscript of the research that we've been doing. And on this slide, you can see I need a type of recap that is very MCURC-like, right? The students have passion for sustainability, willingness to learn, time, motivation, and they need credits, experience, expertise, guidance, and network. Faculty needs to publish. They also need network on field of expertise that they are not in, and they need support from students, as we said. They need sometimes resources to analyze the data that they've been collecting. And I was very amazed and surprised to see how many faculty members have told me, oh, you know, I have done this, I have all these data, but I need the time, I need the resource to analyze it. And this is something that is really important for them. But they have the experience, they have the expertise, they have their own network. And most importantly, they have the ability to guide and to connect and to help students connect with other resources. And on top of all of this, we are here. MCURC is here to develop research on menus of change principles and their impact on health and sustainability, which really is aligned with a lot of students' passion. And sorry, we need to develop this. And we have a network of operators, faculty, students, the ability to connect them, which we are doing right now, but also, and that's a very precious resource, we have dining halls as living laboratories. And we know now more than ever that real life research is crucial to advance and change the food system. So next slide, please. So the objective of the mentoring network are to foster the next generation of academic food leaders, to mentor students across research and education and provide them the resources that we talked about, and offer a robust and structured network built on the existing MCURC working groups and fellow program. It's not an additional like group or meeting. It's really how do we link all the resources that we have to make even more with it, and to offer some more fluid connections to every members. Next slide. So what are the next steps? Because that's very easy to say. So the next step is to identify the points of intersection through faculty and students interviews. And yes, this network is not only for academic members, it's for everyone. All the operators on the call know how many interns they have, and that, you know, could benefit from connection with faculty. So the idea is to identify students, faculty, current momentum, areas of opportunity, research or teaching requirements, what do they need, what do they have, and what do they expect from the MCURC network. And once we have done this, what we call skill inventory and deeper dive into our academic members and students, we will create a platform to pair faculty and their students with other students, undergrad, grad, or postdoc, to advance their project and our project.
Great, thank you, Ghislaine. And so, yeah, just to kind of recap on the mentoring network, as Ghislaine mentioned, this is really more of it's not an entirely new parallel separate entity, but it's really just a layer that cuts across a lot of the different work that we do. The Fellows Program, we've been blown away by the uptake, and so grateful to Julie and Maureen for leading that, but really to all of the advisors who have participated, all of the students who have heeded the call, the opportunity, and it has just grown dramatically in just the past year. And so in recognition of that, was really eager just to better link that with what we were seeing on the research side with graduate students, postdocs, and faculty who, it's not that they were completely separate by any means, but that, ensuring that this is more streamlined and more deliberate in how we're enabling this invaluable role of mentorship in nurturing young leaders throughout their careers, and encouraging them to pursue careers in as food leaders in academic settings, but also beyond as food systems change makers more broadly. So we invite you to notify Shannon again in the follow-up. We'll send the email of where to reach out if you're interested in this. It's just the beginning, as Ghislaine mentioned, in terms of the next steps, but we really definitely want to understand who among you is interested in being part of this, as we do with all of your involvement, begin to flesh it out more fully. So with our time remaining, we would love to take questions and comments and just hear from all of you about if there's anything that we can further clarify in terms of community building these offerings. And always, as always, we also welcome your further ideas.
Hi, Sophie, everybody.
Hi,
This is great. I think it would be great to make it even more explicit about the fellows, mentors, and the staff too, because a lot of like everybody, I would say all across, up and down, would be great in this sort of role, in addition to faculty. So make it very explicit, because some people might think like, oh, it's just for this group and this group, and like you said, it's for everyone. So it's for the fellows, mentors, and the staff and the academics. It's for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great, as we begin to better communicate this, great question. I see a question from Allison Deo. Will fellows be able to access the member portal? Ooh, that's a great question. I don't know. I think that's a really great idea.
It's a good insight actually for us to think about how we could do that. I think that's a great question. Yeah,
that is really great, especially in thinking about a lot of times the work that fellows do, utilizing a lot of the materials that live there. That's a great idea. Thank you for that. I am also a fellow. Curious about that, Alejandra. Okay, great. More than one. If there are others, maybe in the fellows program, if you want to let us know like how resounding this inquiry is. Jeanette Gerger, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, is asked, is there any work that is being done on the current needs of CNUs given the current climate and their anticipations for reopening in the fall? Interested in understanding how sponsors can bring learnings and collaboration to help. Yes, thank you for that. So in our first two insights exchanges, which really were developed in response to the pandemic and a lot of these new challenges and the need for greater communication and sharing among each other including from how sponsors can help. Those conversations also spurred the idea of having a needs assessment. So we sent a short survey around. A couple folks had a chance to respond to that, and we intend to offer more insights exchanges, but explicitly we're having some ideas that the next one would really focus on fall plans, and would love to know now actually if that you could even just use the feature to clap or thumbs up, like how many of you would find that of value, and sponsors as well, how many of you would like to know how you can help and how you can have, yes, I see both virtual and physical thumbs ups in some cases. I would love to know, Jeanette, if you want to elaborate, I would love to hear kind of more about what your ideas would be, because we're definitely just shaping that next one now, but we think that there's a lot of value in just having the chance to hear what are everyone's plans, how are they addressing safety, packaging, capacity, wait times, staffing, supply chain, right? These kinds of questions.
I don't have my camera on because I'm eating lunch, but
we appreciate your honesty.
Yeah.
No, but that's to your point, Sophie, that's exactly what we're looking for. We're hearing about, some universities may come back virtually. So how does that affect those that live on campus or can't, need to be on campus for school? What does that do for faculty and feeding? Some are developing online platforms for ordering ahead of time. So they're using a kind of delivery Uber Eats kind of approach to feeding students. So any kind of learnings that we can share, I would love for them to be helpful. I just didn't know if we were surveying or getting those questions from member organizations about how to open and how to redo it in a safe way.
Yeah, I really thank you for that. We're always sensitive to survey fatigue. In our recent survey, not having a tremendously high turnout sort of underscores that you're all very busy and so forth. But at the very least, having a discussion forum and perhaps a complimentary survey. We also, just to kind of elaborate on that, we also know that individually folks are facing potentially changes in their own jobs. Some may be retiring earlier than they'd planned. Some may be furloughed, some may be laid off, some may have just a lot of questions. So we were also thinking about, surveys just on an individual basis, more just a sort of COVID related survey more generally. And those would be some great questions. But I think more kind of constructively, this opportunity to just hear, okay, there's been a lot of scenario planning. Where have you landed, right? And what is your path forward? And with that path forward, what are you most concerned about? What are you, feeling good about? And what insights can you, as a result of all of that, those very difficult processes that you've all been part of, what are you able to offer in terms of any, recommendations or so both the kind of I need from an insights standpoint. Other questions and comments on what that might look like or what you'd like that to offer? What do you want to make sure we touch on?
This is Frank from Boston College. One thing I was wondering about is just sort of a presentation or even just a statement about how the MCURC and MOC are more important than ever under these circumstances, because I think some people are kind of taking sustainability under the current circumstances and just putting it off to the side. I know Julie at Boston College has done some work with that, but I think it might be nice to get a good reminder out there for people as well that this work is just as important as it ever was, if not more so, under these circumstances.
Thank you, Frank. Yeah, and can you just tell us more about how, and I'd love to know if anyone else feels similarly that would be of use in, communicating to senior leadership. With that, walk me through how you might see us offering that. Is that something sort of like us as MCURC saying, here's a letter you can hand like written in from your perspective, or we could something that we endorse that you're writing. Maybe we can take this offline to further flesh this out too. But
yeah, I don't know. My director is texting me right now, so maybe I should formulate my answer better. But but really, I know at our university there were questions from senior administration about like, was this still important? And Julie Stelmazik, who we're lucky to have at Boston College, worked on some talking points, things like that. I think universities might enjoy something as they see attitudes starting to change.
Yeah, that did come up in the needs assessment too. I think I could see something like that. Maybe that is more of sort of just like reaffirming the case, or something along those lines, like you said, sort of just talking points that you can kind of, you know, as we did with the DISH study, sort of take and choose as is relevant for you. So I know we're out of time. Thanks everyone for joining us today. Hope you find these reminders and kind of news items about ways to share and gain resources, as well as build and participate in community to be of value. We hope you all stay healthy and safe. And Eric, as I'd like to do, I'll give you the last word before we send everyone off.
Great, thank you, Sophie, and my thanks to you, Ghislaine, Shannon, and Chira for an excellent presentation and discussion today. Way to go. But I also want to take a moment to recognize all of our members and your tremendous support for the MCURC and strong support for the MCURC. It's really that support that you provided that you've seen all these great resources. We're not through this difficult time yet, but we're certainly in it together. And I think we continue to listen to you and hear from you what you value most and what we should be continuing to think about in the MCURC to make sure that it meets all of the needs that you have. And certainly, Frank, I like how you phrased it and thinking about the importance of sustainability, healthy menus, all of the vision that we have for the MCRC is more important now than ever. And it's how do we work together to get to that better place. So thanks everyone for your participation today, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Be well.
Thank you.